It's time for another legend of football to reimagine their last professional game on their own terms. I'm Mark Benstead, and this one last match, we're joined by former Liverpool, Leicester, Wigan and England striker Emile Heskey. First, a quick thanks to our sponsors, Who Knows Wins, who are changing the way that you get to enjoy sport. It's the social sporting app that allows you to make predictions in a league against your friends, against your family, colleagues, basically anyone. And crucially, there's real money on the line. Of course, you could also join one of the public leagues and pit your wits against the Who Knows Wins community, which now has over 10,000 players. You can download the Who Knows Wins app on the App Store or Google Play and get a piece of over the £250,000 that's been won so far. So put your money where your mates are and Who Knows Wins. But for now, let's kick off with Emile Heskey's One Last Match.
Hello and welcome to One Last Match. This is the show that gives our favourite former players the chance to reimagine their final game. And my guest this episode had an incredible career. He won the League Cup 4 times, the FA Cup, the UEFA Cup in Liverpool's amazing treble season. He won the Super Cup and got over 60 caps for England as well. It is the former striker Emile Heskey. Quite a career, Emile. We'll get to your reimagined final game in a second, but you actually didn't stop that long ago. You played quite long on. You came back and played with Bolton. What told you that was the time to stop it at that point?
Bit of myself, bit of the body. Actually, the body didn't feel too bad, to be honest with you. At 38, I was still keeping up in the training and everything, which was good. But I knew it was about that time, and I'd given myself a long time. I left school at 16 and joined Leicester Academy, what is called Academy now, YTS back then, and got to 38, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, I was going to say, you were thrown in at the deep end as a 17-year-old, so I guess you'd done your time across that period.
Yeah, definitely.
What is your sort of overriding emotion now when you look back at your career and think, wow, over 500 Premier League appearances, all the clubs I've played for? How much satisfaction do you have at what
loads. You know, the thing is, if at the beginning of my career I'd have said, I'm going to win this many trophies, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, you'd be like, But you always have the aspirations to do it, and you always dream of doing it, but to actually go and do it is another thing. But yeah, it was such a roller coaster, and I enjoyed it. Thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it.
I think you bowed out in the Championship away, Craven Cottage or whatever, against Fulham. You get to pick where this final game will be. Any stadium you played at through your career to walk out at one last time, where would you choose?
It'd have to be Anfield. Growing up as a Liverpool fan, because my uncle was a Liverpool fan, I was always with him. So it'd have to be Anfield. The Champions League nights, the European nights are amazing. I don't know why it's a different atmosphere, but you sense it and you feel a different atmosphere, and they were just electrifying nights. Did you find them different to walk out at? Did you get a different sense when the tunnel, obviously the old tunnel at Anfield, used to come up? Come up and go, yeah. It was everything. That walk, and then obviously the fans, the energy you get from the fans as well, because every player feeds off the energy from the fans, and they give you that. Like you're saying, it's a 12th man, and they give you that little buzz that you want to go out there and perform, and that was the feeling there.
Yeah, some incredible European nights along the way. We'll maybe touch on them in a second. For this game, though, you've picked Anfield then. Who would you like to line up against?
If I'm honest, I've thought about it, and I thought maybe because I've chosen a night game on Euro, and I said European night, but I'd like to go against Everton.
Everton?
Yeah. Them games were crazy. I was lucky enough to play just before I left Leicester and went to Liverpool. I played against Everton, and the difference in the two games, playing for the two, is night and day. Honestly, you just don't understand, and no one can tell you until you're actually in it, and you've played it and been kicked, and someone's trampled on you, and someone's elbowed you, and you get that normally anyway. But the intensity that they do it there, and I remember speaking to my friends after and saying, these players are possessed. because it was just totally different to what I'd literally just played against. And they're the same players, everything, but the rivalry and the hometown rivalry and the bragging rights brings so much out of these players.
So many big games when you play for a team like Liverpool, and you obviously went on to play in like Midlands derbies and things like big games. But did you find that one a bit different then?
Yeah, it was different. It was different, even though the Midlands derby was a bit crazy as well, to be honest with you. They are, and fans-wise, they are very intense, the Midlands ones, where the fans-wise is more bragging rights in Liverpool. You get the bragging rights, and you're not gonna see anyone hurt or stuff like that. But in the Midlands ones, you could, as in Birmingham one.
In terms of the Merseyside derbies you played in, is the one that stands out?
The one that stands out is the one we won 3-2 at the end.
At Goodison.
And Gary Mack scored that goal. And it's funny because we'd just taken a free kick before, and he'd obviously seen that the goalie came out a little bit too early. And so I'm gone on the side of the pitch, and I'm thinking he's just going to hit me. And when he's swung it in, I'm thinking, what are you doing? But when it's gone in, everyone's just gone crazy. So yeah, that was an amazing day. I got a goal that day as well. So.
That was an incredible season. It's like probably your best season in football. But was that one of the biggest moments? If you had to separate a single moment, just for what it kind of did for the rest of the campaign?
Yes, definitely. You know, they're tough games. You know, them sort of games, you just throw all statistics out the window. That is you against them. They're going to run harder. They're going to kick more. They're going to do everything to beat you. So you've just got to be aware of that. And yeah, they were never easy games, and they were very close games at times.
That was a particularly memorable one. Okay, you've got a ground to play, and you've got your opposition. Who do you want to be your manager for the game? All the managers you played under.
I would say the manager who was there that day, on that day we were just talking about, Gerrard. He got us ready for games in that intensity, and like I said, I've always said there was two managers that were really good for me throughout my career. Martin O'Neill, who as a young lad just gave me the confidence to just go out and perform and play, not really overthink things. He'd just say, Emile, get the ball, turn and run, cause havoc. That's all I did. And then when I went with Liverpool, you start to learn a bit more about football, and the football education that he gave me and everyone else was just brilliant.
Gerard Houllier always spoke so enthusiastically about you, from all the time. And when he signed you, he was always like, Emile's playing. He always used to say you were maybe playing at, 60% potential. There's so much more to come. Did you like that, or did you feel like, well, could you see where he was coming from?
No, it's fine. At the end of the day, he was the guy that was who knew every single player, knew what buttons to press to try and get the best out of them, and I believe he got some of the best football out of me.
I was going to say, he seemed to find a way to get you to play, because that football you did play, especially in that, especially from your first full season at Liverpool, was fantastic.
Yeah, it was. It was great, memorable, and it was good. Yeah.
You've got him in the dugout then. You're going to pick your team in a second, but there's one more person to pick before then. Give you the option. You can pick any of the guys you play with over your career that sit next to you on the bus on the way to Anfield. Now, this guy doesn't necessarily have to play. It could be someone who was just the guy to have in the dressing room, the person you enjoyed playing with so much.
Peggy Arfexon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had him at Leicester.
Yeah.
And then he came to Liverpool with me, and it's funny because everyone loved him. He was that character in the dressing room. Never really played that much. He did, but when he did, he actually made a difference. But he was that character in the dressing room, get everyone going, fun lad, get everyone laughing at times as well. But yeah, he was my friend from when I got to Liverpool, and when he came as well.
Yeah, and it goes. Sometimes you get guys who people don't see their contribution to a dressing room. You have to have guys. Is he one of those guys who was good around the place?
100%. He was great with everyone, but great to be around everyone as well. And settle people down, and he was just brilliant.
Yeah. he went on to a very interesting career path next, I'm sure I'm right in saying, but...
I don't think that's true, to be honest with you.
I was going to say, I did wonder. Yeah. Well, maybe not focus on that. In terms of your team that actually plays, he's there on the bus to the game with you. You've got to pick a team to line up with, of guys you played with. Who do you put in goal?
I'd go in goals, probably Sander.
Sander?
Vesterveld, yeah. At the time, because of the treble winning, even though Jersey came in and Chrissy Kirkland came in and did very well, I think at the time we were forming something with Sander. And he had an amazing kick. I know that he could kick from one box to the other. Just generally a good guy.
Yeah, and something that would help you because you'd be the guy who'd be expected to get on the end of those.
Exactly. And then we'd play off that with Michael and people like that.
Yeah, you picked him. You obviously played a lot of fantastic goalkeepers for England as well. Any of them close to kind of stepping in? And
yeah, definitely. David James was physically possibly one of the best I've played with. Mentally, probably not, but physically, he's a sound guy. Really, you know, you look at his physique. He could get anything. You know, the size of him. But and David Seaman. When you sign your autograph and put safe hands, it says all. So.
Yeah, not bad company to be in. You picked Sander Vesterveld though. It's up to you what formation you play. How many at the back are you playing? Four at the back. Okay. Let's talk. Let's talk options then. Who are you going with? First choice.
Right back, I'd go with Marcus Babbel. Came in, had a difficult time because he had some sort of illness, didn't he? So and he had to give up football. But when he came in, he was outstanding. Up and down that right hand side, and you know, a German international, solid player, and great professional. So I'd pick him at right back. Could have picked some others, but Barry Steve Finnan as well. And who else? Gary Neville is probably one of the most consistent, but I can't put him on the pitch with us on Anfield, can I?
You're allowed to if you want. You're allowed to. It's up to you. It's your game.
No, it's fine.
You can be allowed special dispensation if need be. You picked Marcus Babbel, of course. You say German international. Was he a very different German international to Didi Hamann, who was also in the dressing room in that time?
Yeah, pretty similar, to be honest with you, but Didi took to the English culture probably a little bit more and quicker than Marcus did. But Didi was at Newcastle as well, wasn't he? So, but I'll have him in my side as well, but we'll come to that later.
Well, okay, we'll leave that till later on then. You picked Marcus Babbel. Who else goes into that back four?
Centre back, I'd probably go with Sami Hyypiä. Outstanding player, to be honest with you. You know, when you look at someone who really doesn't have that much pace, but never put himself in a position where he's actually having to go one-on-one with someone with pace, and his timing was on point. So great defender, and good in the other box when he had to come up with a goal as well. So put him there.
Do you think it says something about him that obviously partway through his time he had to hand the captaincy on to Stephen, but it wasn't a problem? The way he dealt with all that was kind of mark of him as well, because some guys, it can be toys out the pram and then that unravels from them. But that didn't happen with Sam.
No, he was a great individual. He was a great captain. He understood as a leader that sometimes you pass that on and you play your role. And he was great like that.
And kind of important in that team that was built by Gerard Houllier, kind of the spine of the team was so strong, and Sammy, I guess, plays a huge part in that.
Yeah, definitely leader at the back, and that talisman that you know, if we needed someone to be solid, winning headers, winning tackles, he was that man.
Did Sammy say much?
Not necessarily. He just led by example. He wasn't one of those ones that rant in the changing rooms and get everyone going that way, because it was different. It was different dynamics in the Liverpool changing room. We didn't really need all that. People had their own way of doing it, but he led by example.
Who'd you put in alongside him then?
Stefan Encher. They both played together throughout that season. They were outstanding, especially when we was up against it in cup finals and stuff like that. So I would put him next to him. He was probably the overly calm person when it comes to being on the pitch. Took his time with everything, but then when needed to make a challenge, he was there for you. I remember coming from Leicester to Liverpool, and at Leicester we didn't really tackle that much in training, because you want to be careful you don't injure anyone. First training session, he just took me straight out, bang. I thought, okay, I like this. But no, he's a great individual as well.
But you played with him, of course, at Liverpool in that huge run. He had a pivotal role in the FA Cup final.
Yeah.
What was that moment like during the game? Were you aware of kind of what?
I wasn't, to be honest with you. It wasn't until I watched it back later and you're like, oh, how did they not spot this? But yeah, he was, he's one of those players that gives it his all. Sometimes probably needs to stay on his feet, but generally wins the tackle. So can't really blame him.
And was that one of those moments that felt, not that it was a lucky season, but there were moments in that season that it felt it was destined for you guys?
Yeah, there's always moments like that in seasons, isn't there, where things tend to go your way more likely than not. So, and that was definitely one of those.
Okay, Sami Hyypiä, Stefan Honcho as the two centre-halves. Who completes that back four?
Well, back four, I'm going to go away from a Liverpool player. I'm going to go to Ashley Cole, because Ashley Cole was possibly the best player of my era. So up and down, never really given the accolades that he should have. I'm sure he got over 100 caps.
I was going to say, you're saying the best player of your era. It's a fantastic era you played in. He probably doesn't get mentioned enough in that breath. For what he did, do you think he is of that level?
100%, and trophy-wise, games-wise. Important moments. When Ronaldo says that you're the most difficult player you played against, you've got to throw that in the equation as well. So played till he was 30, I think it was 38 at Derby, and was one of their best players as well. So it shows the temperament of the man himself, but was never really given the accolades.
Was he one of those guys that you thought was good, and then you saw him in England close up and you realised how good?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, training and everything. I believe he was possibly a winger beforehand, but was a phenomenal player.
Why do you think he perhaps didn't get the recognition?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I'm guessing that the move from Arsenal to Chelsea, people weren't happy with that, but again, you ask 99.9% of people, they'd have probably done the same as him. And it was justified with the trophies that he was winning. So you go on and win more trophies, and you be one of the most decorated players in the league, and yet you're still not seen like that. Strange.
Yeah, that was just the unglamorous, I guess, left back. Maybe not as fun as a striker, maybe, but phenomenal player. And the medal hall, if he did medals on the table, he would need some size of table.
100%.
He's in. Midfield, what are you going 3 in midfield, 4 in midfield?
I'm going to go 3. Well, I'm going to go diamond 4, I think.
Okay.
So I'm going to go holding Didi Hamann. Outstanding player, to be honest with you. Didi had this calming nature about him that he didn't really, he, again, another leader, but led in a different way. Didn't really need to say too much, but he'd just give you that thumbs up every now and again, and you feel, oh yeah, you're doing well.
Did he take a bit of getting used to, because he's kind of so laid back and so kind of unorthodox, I guess, and so, he'll go and he'll have his form guide, he'll be smoking his fag. And
yeah, to be fair, that was a little bit different, but on the pitch, he was great. He was phenomenal, cleaning up everything, and everyone talks about Makelele, but did just as good a job, and a great passer of the ball as well, so he had everything.
Was he a good guy to link the different parts of the dressing room as well? Because you had the kind of English group, but then you also had the foreign guys. Was he the kind of guy in the middle a little
English.
Bit?
Yeah. Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, that linking of different cultures and everything together, and even him, for them to understand the British culture and the way we did things, you could ask him.
Yeah, and also, by the sounds, good on a night out as well. He would be the guy who would be. Well, keep an eye on him because he might lose him otherwise.
Yeah, definitely. Right.
Yeah.
We don't talk about it.
Cracking play. Okay, he's in midfield. Who else are you putting in?
I obviously have to put Stevie in there. Stevie was very young when I got there, obviously 19, but you could see what he was going to turn into, the leader he was going to turn into and everything, and just a phenomenal player. To be able to drive through midfield like that, we're missing that a little bit now, where players drive through midfield and take players on and commit players and draw defenders out where you can actually create spaces. And we're missing that a little bit now, but he was one of those players that could do that.
As a forward player, what was it like to have someone like him behind you? What did he offer from midfield?
Everything. I just made runs and they just found me. That was it. And it was funny because I speak about it, how I went from, no disrespect to where I went. I went to Birmingham and went from having him and players like Danny Murphy and Paddy Berger and people like that passing me the ball and just making runs and then finding me and without even looking, and then going to Birmingham and it just wasn't the same. Everything was sideways and backwards because everyone was a bit too. They wasn't confident enough in their ability to actually hit that pass. Where Steve would just go bang, bang, and it was great to play with.
How did you find the step to Liverpool? You talked just then about moving on from Liverpool, but the steps, because your kind of start and your initial spell there was phenomenal. Yeah,
it was good. I enjoyed it. You got to remember I was in the national team as well, so that the step in a sense wasn't as big as it would have been if I hadn't been in the national team, because you go from the intensity in training is just another level, but you have that in the national team. So you get used to that as well. Even I spoke to someone recently, and I played the under-16s national team, and I spoke to him. He was already in it, and I said the intensity of training going from a normal under-16s to that was amazing, and I knew that I had to step my game up, but I'd already done that now. So when I went to Liverpool, it was tough, but I could adjust quicker.
Was that sort of 2000, 2001 spell, the things that happened to you, how do you look back at that? 'Cause you look back at February, England debut in the February, then you won the League Cup again with Leicester, then you joined Liverpool, and then in April you scored your first Liverpool goal. So in the space of 4 months, you've gone from another cup with Leicester, you've gone international recognition in there, you've become Liverpool's most expensive player for a spell, and you score for them as well. How was that kind of spell?
I took everything in my stride. It was just, I never really looked at it as that. It's now you look back and you think, wow, did that really happen? Did I really do that? But when you're in that bubble, you expect to do it. It's a weird thing feeling when you're actually in it. You're not really thinking too much about it. You just say, well, yeah, this is what I'm meant to do. This is me. I know I can do it. There's no questioning. There's no doubt in it. I'm doing it. But when you look back now, you're like, oh, that must have been tough.
Do you think one thing leads into the other? So, making your England debut, playing really well with Argentina?
That was actually my first start.
Yeah, start against Argentina. Yeah. Having that experience, does that then feed into winning the cup, and then that feeds into the performances?
Yeah, you're on a high, and you just want to keep going. You just want to keep playing. You want to keep performing. And when you're on that high, you don't want to stop. So, yeah.
Yeah, cup final success with Leicester and amongst that. How much did that mean to you to go? That was dramatic. It was a late goal, Matt Elliott.
Yeah, I think we knew what we were capable of doing, and the cups were our thing. That was our third cup final in 4 years. That was our second win. So yeah, we knew what we was capable of doing, and we were lucky that era in a sense, because a lot of the top clubs would play a lesser team, the lesser players in that League Cup. So we'd go out and try and win it, and that's what we did. We got to 3 cup finals and won 2 of them.
Yeah, cups were your thing. Cups were your thing at Liverpool as well. Yeah. Okay, well, Stevie was a big part of that. He's in your team. Who else are you putting in? What you got, Diddy?
Yeah, I'd probably put. Let me have a think. I'd probably go with Paddy Berger. I played with him, I think, one full season, but he left an impression in a sense that he had a lot of energy and his shot was amazing. That left foot. I remember playing against Leicester, and he's hit this shot and he's hit the crossbar and come back out, and Peggy was in goal for Leicester, and he says, I didn't even see it. I just saw it when it came back off the crossbar. It's like. He did have a great shot, and he had that knack of getting a goal when you needed it as well. So I'd probably put him in left side of Stevie.
That's quite offensive attacking options either side, because Paddy, although he could play further forward as well, so he brings a goal threat to it as well. Who's going to be the fourth player then?
I'd probably go with Nicolas Anelka.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go with Nicolas Anelka. He was came on loan to us, but had an impact as well, a good impact as well. You know, solid player, very tricky, crazy feet. He had this chop inside where he used to just chop the ball and then no one could get anywhere near him. And you know, from when you win the Champions League like he has done, the trophies that he's done, come back, play at a lesser team, and then do the same there again, as in Bolton, and then get another big move. He left an impression on me as well.
He's one, unfortunately for him, he had this reputation that went before him, and sometimes that kind of counted against him. But in the way you found him, not the case.
No. What was it? Le Sulk, wasn't it? It was called. But if you actually had sat down with him and had a one-on-one with him, it's nothing, no problem at all. But I think there's a perception that obviously with the agents and him more taking a backward seat and letting them do all the talking and stuff like that, and no one really heard him in the media. So they'd pick up on that, and once the media have a perception on you, generally the fans will have a perception because they'll just read what you're writing. So, but no, he was a great lad.
Was it a nice surprise? So you have a perception as a guy, you read the same stuff, you hear the same stuff. When a guy comes in the dressing room, and you're like, oh, actually, he's pretty sound. Was it quite a nice impact for him to come in? Because he did very well in the short time.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, you shouldn't read into that, but you do. And it's like, you know, I played with Robbie Savage, and if you don't know Robbie, you might not like him. From what you see on the football pitch and from what you hear in interviews and stuff. But if you sat with Robbie, you'd love him. Absolutely love him. He's fun. He's actually fun, Robbie. But the Robbie that you see there, I think he's more of a character. But the Robbie that if you had a one-on-one, Robbie Savage you'd be in stitches.
We'll find out in just a minute who Emile picks to play up front beside him, and also who he'd like to have in his team as a wildcard pick. But first, let me tell you a bit more about Who Knows Wins. It's a sports app where you challenge your friends or the community over sports results. Download the app, and you can either join one of the public leagues they have created around things like the Premier League every weekend, or you can create your own custom league and invite your friends to play against you. You pick the fixtures you want to predict, you set the entry fee, and then you pick the results for each game. The more people you have in your league, well, then it's simple. The bigger the pot. All you have to do is pick the results. You can check out all the links on our Twitter at One Last Match, or just One Last Match on Facebook. But for the moment, let's get back to Emile Heskey's One Last Match.
So Nicolas Anelka's in the kind of point of your midfield. Who are the two in front? You're one of them.
Yeah.
So who's going with you?
Me and Michael. Yeah, we had a great understanding. Me and Michael played together from the age of 18. Well, I was 18, he was 16. The partnership just clicked from there. And, you know, he understood how I wanted to play. I understood what he wanted, and it worked. You know, you got the big man, small man, and we saw it with Niall Quinn and Kevin Phillips, and ours worked well as well. So, and we did some good things.
Plus it, Marley. What was it about the two of you that worked so well? Because he
was a goal scorer. He was a goal scorer. He was selfish. So you need someone who's going to do that. You need someone who's going to score the goals. Yes, I would score goals, but I was content with creating a lot as well, and being that focal point where you're holding the ball up and bringing other people in. He didn't want to get involved in all that. So I'll do that, and we'll work around it and form a good partnership. When the ball's coming towards him and he needs to over it, I'm there with him. Lay him in, he lays me in, and we formed a great partnership that was mentally there as well.
He speaks about how unselfish you were and how much you did for him. He's full of praise for what you did. Do you think you sometimes, to the detriment of yourself, you were too selfless? You did too much for everyone else, and you could have been more for Emile?
I don't know what is too much for. Don't know what is too much for everyone else, because it's a team sport. Now, I was always taught that it's a team sport, and I love that. I love the fact that and one of the things I always say is a coach said to me, win your individual battle and then go and help your mate. And I loved all that because I'm helping someone, I'm giving back. And this was just me. And if I'd have changed that, I don't think it would have been me out there. So yeah, I was happy to do that.
Huge benefit to the guys around you. Michael, more than most. That moment, we mentioned the cup final in 2001 earlier, those 2 goals from him, the kind of almost smash and grab a bit on Arsenal, did that sum up
Michael?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, definitely. Taking the opportunity when the ball drops in the box, being the first to get on the ball. And then the second one was Paddy Berger's ball over the top. And it's funny because I think it was Tony Adams showed Michael onto his left, thinking that he's not going to go. He wants to come back on his right and try and bend it or have a shot. Michael just took it. Go on. All right, then if you're going to show me that, I'll open that ball up and just pass it into the corner. And yeah, amazing.
Amazing goal scorer. You play with a lot of great forwards though. Guys like Robbie Fowler, Wayne Rooney, are they guys who would have been in contention for anyone other than Michael?
100%. But when you have a relationship with a player like that from a young age, and it just clicks like that, there was no going to be anyone else. But if I was to say who's the best actual finisher, it'd be Robbie. Robbie's the best finisher I've played with. His ability to bang, hit the corners all the time, header, different types of goal, right foot, left foot, phenomenal.
But Michael, the guy who plays best with you.
With me, yeah. In
terms of your career, obviously some of the guys you played with for club and for country, how do you look back at a kind of spell with England? Because you were part of this group. There were so many talented players, hugely successful, 60 caps plus, whatever it was. Do you look back with some frustration, though, at the squads that you think, Ashley Cole before, great players, you maybe could have done a little bit better as a collective?
Yeah, possibly could have done better as a collective. As individuals, we were good. But yeah, collectively, we could have possibly done better. Well, definitely done better. But again, the French team, I always say it now, the French team from my age group, Anelka, Henry, Trezeguet,
as well.
Gallas, Silvestre, Ousmane Darboe, Saha, and then you add Zidane, Vieira, Petit, Lizarazu. Who else do you want me to name?
Yeah, that's quite a few. Yeah.
So, you're going into a different realm, and they probably played more as a team, whereas we wasn't as gelled as we probably would have liked to have been.
How did you find, you mentioned earlier when you stepped up with the youth levels with England, how did you find that step into the spotlight? Did anything quite compare to being part of England for a tournament? You go back to something like the World Cup 2010, so much focus, things like that. Was that a different level?
Yeah, of course it would be. The thing is, we go into a tournament, it doesn't matter how well where we are within the rankings, we're always going to be, they're going to win the tournament. It doesn't really matter where you are. You could be 13th, you could be 8th, you could be 3rd in the rankings, but no, England are going to win the tournament. And there comes added pressure there, and then everyone puts that pressure on the players, and the players start to feel that. And I remember years, was it 2000s, 2002s and 4s, where you'd have a room like this, and all the papers will be sprawled out on the table, and it could be negative. And you don't really need that as players. You don't really need that around you. You just take the papers away, and let's just concentrate on what we've got to do. And it slowly came in that way, where we didn't actually have any media influencing us.
How did you find the various England managers you played under? Because again, some huge names who could have been in consideration to be in the dugout for your game. How did you find them and playing under them?
I enjoyed every single one of them, to be honest with you. I never really... Glenn Hoddle, I didn't play. I was training. I didn't really play. He was good. Very good. Tactically and everything was sound. Sven was probably my best. Just for the fact that the understanding and giving you the understanding of when you go on that pitch, you know exactly where you need to be at every single time during the game, and the calmness of it. I don't mind ranters and ravers, but I'm not really a fan.
And in terms of that kind of England environment, did Do you look back and think of things that could have been done differently in terms of because different managers have tried different preparations at times. Some have locked the guys away, some have given freedom. But there always seems to be a bit of a hullabaloo around whatever happens.
It will be, won't it? It doesn't really matter whether you lock them away or give them freedom. If they don't win, then that's the problem, isn't it? I didn't mind either way, to be honest with you. I think they were saying about 2010 how he locked us away, but I managed to see my family. They allowed me to see my family, so I don't see why others weren't allowed to see. I'm sure they did see their family. So, yeah.
2010 was the one where Rio got injured in the build-up.
Yeah.
How difficult was that as a group when that kind of breaks and your captain is kind of taken out the equation?
Yeah, definitely, and I was the one that injured him. So the ball came in and I've controlled it, but fell back onto him, and but his knees his boots caught in the ground and his knees just gone. So yeah, it was difficult.
What's that like for you though? Because there must be it's like a heart in the mouth. But it's like that's the England captain. The World Cup's down there.
There's nothing I could do. I'm stood there and he's tackled, and I fell onto him. So there's nothing really I could do. It's not anyone's fault in particular. It's just one of those freak accidents. You just take it the way it is.
You dealt with the pressure of England. You've dealt with the pressure of cup finals with Liverpool. How did you find the pressures of surviving relegation with Wigan Athletic? Last day?
Nervous, but fun as well. Nerve-wracking in the sense that the thing is, you know what is in your hands. We needed to win the game, so we knew that it was in our hands. Really, we should not have been in that position. We had a really good start to the season, then we just fell away. And I always say that you never want to detach yourself from that middle of the pack. Once you start detaching yourself, it's so hard to pull yourself back out. Even though Leicester did it, West Brom did it a couple of seasons after. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough, mentally tough, even to the point where Paul Jewell resigned at the end of the season. It was just too much for him, you know. But enjoyable in a sense that when you've finished and you've won, the relief. Yeah, and then it's a game that everyone, especially Wigan fans, remember me for.
I was going to say you survived by a goal, I think, in the end.
Yeah.
When it's Sheffield United, David Unsworth's pressure penalty. What are the emotions like through those moments in the game? Because it's in the balance effectively.
Yeah, I remember going at the back. I played at the back towards the end, and all I remember was I was just saying to myself, kick it and head it, and that's what I did. Ball came in the box, I just headed it away. When it dropped to my feet, I just booted it away. And now everyone remembers me for being a defender.
Guys like Lee McCulloch, Antonio Valencia were in that team, Paul Shan, some big characters. Did you need guys like that for those kind of games?
Well, we had them guys for that reason. You know, they were exceptional characters, and we had good characters, big characters in the changing rooms, and for that sort of events, you know, who would put their life on the line.
Did you feel for Paul come the end of the season when it did just get too much to him and he just said, "Look,
definitely,
I need to."
Definitely. You never know. We as players, yes, there's pressure, but the manager has a lot more pressure than we do. You know, because he's taking stick for something that we've done. So you know, the pressure that come with it, you know, is immense. And then to come towards the end of the season, you just say. And we've stayed up and just say, oh, look, this is just too much for me. And he took a year out or a certain amount of time, and then went to Derby, didn't he? So.
Yeah, did get back in the game eventually. How do you reflect on that night then? You've survived in the Premier League by the skin of your teeth. Was that one where you're on the bus or whatever and everyone's just, is it shock? Is it disbelief? Is it just party?
It's a bit shock and a bit party, to be honest with you. The lads were great. We knew, like I said, we knew what we had to do and we did it. So it was just like, has it really happened? Yes, it has. Where's the beers? So, yeah.
Yeah, quite a few nights like that. If you look back at all the different achievements, say things like that, which are special in their own right, staying up with a team like Wigan in that manner, you look at the trophies you won with Leicester, what you won with Liverpool, which of the things stands out for, which was the cup final of the match where it sticks out most in your memory, do you think?
Game or cup final?
Well, game or it could be a game of significance. It doesn't have to be a cup final, but you know that was a particular.
The 5-1. Everyone remembers me for the 5-1. the England game. We lost the final game at the old Wembley, which was disappointing. I think Kevin Keegan resigned after that, didn't he? Didi Hamann scoring a free kick, and going in the backyard, and that's Sven's first competitive game, and being 1-0 down. And it's funny because I met someone, a fan, and he says, yeah, we went 1-0 down and we should have been 2-0 down. And my dad just said, I can't handle this, and left. He said his dad left and went to the pub and didn't watch it.
Bad choice in hindsight.
Yeah. So, but yeah, everyone remembers me for that. So that would be a great game.
What was that like to play in? Just the way it unravelled. I say you had to come from behind, but the way it seemed to just kind of build.
It was crazy the way that it unravelled. When you're playing in a game and everything just clicks. Yeah, well, after 10 minutes, everything just clicks. Everything just falls into place. Stevie scores. Michael gets 3, and I just top it off with the 5th one. It's just everything just works so well. We had a good side.
Mm-hmm. Did you and Michael ever have a conversation about that game? Because two guys who played each other through the ranks. Talked about how well you played together. But then to both score in a game of that level, there must have been a moment you went, well, we've kind of, that's living the dream a little bit.
No, but I did speak with Sven about it, and he says, yeah, we'll always be in history. It was just an amazing night.
I was going to say, we spoke a few moments ago about the fact that England sometimes get built up, don't always achieve, when there are certain sort of black nights in the history of, or dark nights in the history of England, but that is one, that really does. It's one of the amazing nights. So you kind of is that set in now? You realise, well, actually, I was.
Yeah, definitely, because I get stopped by everywhere in the world, England fans, and that's the game that and everyone knows exactly where they were when that game was being played.
It was an incredible night. Yeah. That scoreboard picture is one that always gets put up as part of one. To return back to your team, to wrap up your match, then I give you the chance. Of all the players you played against, but not with, you can play a wild card and bring one of them into your team. Is the one player you played against, you thought, well, that guy is just...
Thierry Henry.
What was it about him that made him so electric?
Just his ability to ghost past players, be always in the game. He was always in the game. Give him the ball, he'll go down the wing and create something. Give him the ball in the middle, he'll put someone on. So he's always in the game, always being a threat. But then, not just that, his goal scoring ability as well. To be able to go and get different types of goals as well. I don't think he scored many headers, but apart from that, everything else was just outstanding.
Obviously, you played in a similar era to him. You're one of your kind of peers. You're an elite level striker, an international striker, a top level striker. But did you find yourself looking at guys like him? Did you want to try and learn and take little bits?
You learn from everyone. And him, Anelka, Ian Wright, players like that. I looked up to John Barnes, so dribbling ability of John Barnes. So you try and learn from everyone.
So he would get the nod to go in. You add him into your team. Did you find anyone particularly, I'm thinking the opposite end, obviously as a striker, particularly difficult to play against, or did you always just relish the challenge of all those guys?
I relished the challenge, but Sol was always a tough one. Because I loved the physicality, and he was very strong and very big. So, it was always a tough battle. But I like you said, I relish the challenge. I relish that sort of stuff.
Okay, well, to wrap things up, you've picked your team, you've picked your manager, you've got your opposition, you've got all laid out for your final match. If you look back on your career, Emile, which you achieved so much, is there one thing you would change or something you would do differently, given your time over again?
Not really. The only thing I would possibly say, the season I left Liverpool, they went on to win the Champions League. So it would have been nice to add that.
Would have been nice to complete the set and the trophy hall. Had pretty much everything else, though, to be fair.
Apart from the league as well.
Yeah. But the trophies, the cup, as you said before, cups were your thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And cups certainly were.
Definitely.
Emile, it was a fantastic career. Thank you for taking the time for joining us on the show. Fabulous stuff. That is us done and dusted for this episode. Remember, it is never too late for one last match.
Thanks there to Emile for his one last match. Part of England's golden generation. There were just so many players that he could have chosen. Just a quick reminder before we go to get involved with Who Knows Wins, the new app that really is shaking up the sports entertainment industry. You can challenge your mates for real money and for bragging rights. And that is what Who Knows Wins is all about at the end of the day. Download the app, create your league, select your fixtures across football, rugby, tennis or horse racing, then set your entry stake, you make your predictions, and invite your pals in and challenge them to beat your guesswork. Grow that pot and then win the money. Of course, when it comes to the bragging rights, it's simple. Winner takes all. Get it on the App Store or Google Play right now. Who Knows Wins, put your money where your mates are. And, of course, while you're online, make sure you rate, review and subscribe to One Last Match and catch up on some of the previous episodes with the likes of Gary Pallister, Stuart McCall and John Hartson. You can keep up to date with the latest from One Last Match on Twitter, @OneLastMatch, and just search for One Last Match on Facebook as well. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week for One Last Match.
Audio Frontier.